Am I the a-hole for choosing to live in a city which will make it nearly impossible for my ex to see his child? I, 28 female, got divorced from my ex-husband John, 38 male, of 6 years in June this year. In 2019, I was diagnosed with PCOS and after multiple treatments and many complications, was told that I probably wouldn't be able to have a child naturally. We'd been trying for a baby for 3 years, and as expected, this devastated us. Our marriage suffered because while I eventually made my peace with the situation, John couldn't seem to get past it. I suggested fostering and adoption, but his heart wasn't in it anymore. After months of hostility, zero intimacy, and withdrawn affection, we asked for couples therapy. He responded that he'd rather have a divorce. He said he'd been checked out for a while and there was no point dragging things out. I was heartbroken, and it didn't help that I was stuck living with him throughout the lockdown. I eventually accepted the end of our marriage, and as we went through the divorce process, I prepared for the move back to my hometown across the country. Shortly before I moved out, we slept together. I know. It was an impulsive mistake, fueled by alcohol and loneliness, and he made sure I knew it meant nothing. Anyway, I eventually moved back and it's been wonderful. I'd forgotten how much I love being near my family and friends. I was slowly adjusting to single life when I found out that I am pregnant. Yep, I know, right? What are the chances? I told John about the pregnancy and he was over the moon. But for some reason, he assumed that I would be moving back to live with him. When I told him that I have no intention of moving back, but rather raising our child in my hometown, he lost his mind and accused me of trying to keep our child from him out of spite. I told him that he could move if he wanted to be closer to his child, but he insisted that he wouldn't be able to find work out here, that it made more sense for me to move back because I've only been at my new job a few weeks, and it wouldn't be as much of a sacrifice as leaving the job that he's had for 11 years. He offered to pay for the move, a new apartment, etc., but I turned it down and explained that if I stay, I'll be able to keep working because my family's here to support me. At that mom and sisters have already been such a big help with finding a place to stay, preparing for baby, seasoned mom advice, moral and emotional support, and so I feel more confident having them around. If I moved back, I would essentially have to be a stay-at-home mom, which I really don't want. He told his family about the baby without warning me, and now I'm being bombarded with criticism from every direction and being threatened with legal action for alienating them from baby. I don't see why I should be the one to compromise after having to up and move my whole life the way I did. Now for the top comments. Not stay home. John is only interested in you as a broodmare. Get a lawyer and get a custody agreement in writing and get child support. Do not do anything that would make you dependent on John. Yeah, the scariest part of the offer is that he wants Opie to be dependent on him. That just flat out isn't safe for Opie given how he's behaved, and his complete disinterest in Opie's well-being. And if it's not in her best interest, then it's not in the kid's either. Frankly, I don't think the kid would benefit from having this guy take on a more active parenting role regardless. Someone who treats a spouse like a broodmare is also going to treat their kid like some other kind of object. A trophy, a cudgel against Opie, nothing good. So let's get this straight. When he couldn't get what he wanted, he straight up tossed Opie to the curb because he checked out of their marriage. So she had to append her entire life. But now that she's pregnant, he expects her to do it again to make his life more convenient? Opie, do what's best for you and your baby, which should include getting a lawyer to sort out custody and child support as someone else mentioned. Also, congrats. NTA, NTA, NTA. Oh my word, the unmitigated gall of this guy is insane. Tell him to find a different surrogate and to leave you alone. He tossed you aside when you didn't get pregnant and now wants you to sacrifice everything to be his new nanny to your own child. Of course, his family's behaving like this. They're the ones that helped create that monster. I'm just so glad you were back home with your loving and supporting family just in time. Congratulations on your baby and happy holidays with true family. If his family is getting aggressive with you, block them. He ended a relationship. Sounds like he honestly doesn't even want a relationship. Just a baby. Red flag for that. You moved, you started a new life. You can move or not. He made the choice to not be in a relationship with you. He can be the one to move. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my brother-in-law out for his weaponized incompetence and calling him pathetic at dinner? I, female 24, have a sister, female 32, who has a husband, male 38, who is the poster child of weaponized incompetence. They have 4 kids, Female 10, male 8, male 5, female 3, and she's pregnant. My sister works a full-time job, 40 plus hours a week, cleans her entire house, cooks, takes care of all her children, without him doing anything. It is seriously mind-blowing that she wakes up like 4 a.m., cooks breakfast, does chores, gets all of her kids ready for school, takes them all to school and daycare, and all he does is stay home and work. And when his kids get home, after my sister picks them up of course, he will play with them for a little and play video games until he falls asleep. And she actually makes more than him. My fiancé, male 26, and I had to stay with them for 6 weeks while our home was being renovated. And since we both work from home, we helped her, and it is amazing how much happier she is when she has help. I helped with the kids, and my fiancé even drove her to doctor's appointments. Her husband literally only acknowledges he is a parent when his family's around. Then he is a God-fearing, hard-working father of 5. He's the one that wanted more kids. She wanted to stop after her last baby, but he needed more boys. I am seriously concerned, not only for her, but her kids as well. Because now her oldest is seeing what's happening and trying to help. But my sister is prideful and refuses to let her child do anything. Me and this man have never gotten along. He's been acting like this since their 8-year-old was born. I've tried talking to her about leaving, but she doesn't want her kids to grow up in a broken home. And unfortunately, her experience with our parents' divorce was completely different than mine. So she doesn't understand that a divorce would benefit her kids here because she thinks they need their mom and dad together. Cut to this past weekend, her and her husband threw a pre-Thanksgiving potluck where our entire family plus his was there. I stayed with my sister a few days before because I knew he wouldn't help. So, we're at dinner all talking and I mentioned we are trying for a baby, and my brother-in-law makes an offhanded comment to him about how hard fatherhood is. I snapped and said, like you would know. He looked taken aback and asked me what I meant, and I unloaded on him, calling him a pathetic excuse for a man who makes my 8 months pregnant sister do everything for their family. I went off for a solid 10 minutes, and he sat there shrinking in a seat. I left. Last night, my sister called me and thanked me for standing up for her, and told me she appreciated me. Although today I got a very nasty text from him telling me I'm a terrible person, and that because I lied in front of his family, his mom is angry at him and is moving in with them to help her out, and that I've made him the laughingstock of his family. He certainly thinks so, but am I the a-hole for doing this? His mom is angry at him and is moving in with them to help her out, and it all becomes clear. Not the a-hole. Behind every incompetent man is a mother who did everything for him. Lol. Someone is just pissy because he is being forced to put on his big boy undies. While your timing was not the greatest, he needed to hear it. Besides, isn't Thanksgiving the time of year we all have big blowouts with a crazy family member? Not only did you speak the truth to a guy with learned helplessness, you also seem to have gotten some positive help for your sister. Seriously, if he's that bad, he deserves to be a laughingstock. Maybe that will bring some more positive change, whether it's his finally helping or your sister leaving him. Not even a justified a-hole as some comments suggest. You had a breaking point and he was taking credit for the children's upbringing that your sister single-handedly should be thanked for. He knows he isn't wrong, which is why he sat quietly and kept pretending in front of his family. He would have driven your sister into an early grave. His true colors are bound to come out sooner or later when his mother has moved in. He will not be able to pull the facade forever. When that happens, he will either have to change properly or risk losing the support of his family. All of it started with you speaking up for your sister against his lies. Well done. Next story. Am I the a-hole for forcing my brother and his girlfriend to terminate? So I'm a 24-year-old who moved out of their parents' place a couple years back. My parents are terrible people and were very cruel to me and my brother growing up. I very much enjoyed the space to myself, and it has been the only time in my life I've truly felt safe. My twin brother, Zach, didn't move out and was also pretty miserable living with my parents. Then about 8 months ago, he asked if he and his girlfriend, Kat, could stay with me for a while, as he started school a couple years after me and isn't financially in a place where he can afford his own place. Knowing how awful my parents are, and how much of a good guy and gal Zach and Kat are, it really wasn't much of a decision. I just told them to chip in when they can, and as long as I'm not paying for their food or anything like that, it's chill for the time being. Things have been fine, and Zach and Kat have been nothing but respectful to me at my place. The place is on the smaller side, but Zach is usually at school or work, and Kat works a good amount of the time, so I'm not usually super bothered by it. Their plan is to move out once Zach graduates, which will probably be 2023 at the rate is going. So I'd most likely be living with them another year and a half to 2 years. Now that wasn't much of an issue to me as they don't really have anywhere to go, and I totally get not wanting to move back in with our parents. The thing is though, about a week back they revealed to me they were pregnant. While I think it's awesome, and I'm excited for them, this severely throws a wrench into our living arrangement. I really can't deal with a baby living with us for the extended future. I'm someone who's very sensitive to noises and suffers insomnia. So a crying baby would literally make my life hell on earth. When I asked them what they were planning on doing, they said they were going to keep it as Kat doesn't believe in abortion. And they feel as if they'd make good parents. They definitely would. They're great people. I said, oh well, congrats then. We ended a conversation there for that night. The next day, I asked them what their plans were for housing in the near future, as they know about my sleeping condition and how I'd feel with a baby/toddler in the house. They said they'd have to stay here as they didn't really have anywhere else to go. I told them that won't be happening for reasons stated earlier. They both got very upset and accused me of forcing them to terminate their baby. Now for the comments. Not stay home. That's their problem. You've stated your boundaries clearly, and if that doesn't match up with their beliefs, then they can find another way to manage. You didn't sign up to living with your kid. I'm super confused as to how they both work, one of them full-time, but can't rent a place themselves. Opie's posts make it seem like they don't have any other option, but surely they should be able to afford to rent even a studio apartment on 1.5 incomes. 1.5 incomes who haven't had to pay for real rent for the past few months, that should at least have gotten their deposit and first/last month covered. If it's so dire that they're not even covering their should-be expenses, full rent, utilities, food and wear and tear and stuff, they're not in a place to have a kid. You aren't forcing them to do anything. They can have their baby. They just can't do it while living with you. If their family planning is based on being able to live with you rent-free for the foreseeable future, then they can't afford to have a baby. You agreed to house them rent-free for over 2 years, which was incredibly generous, but this is a boundary for you, and they need to accept that and stop blaming you for their financial situation. Living with a baby is a lot, especially if the baby isn't yours. You have done nothing wrong here. They just can't do it while living with you. For free. You did not force them to copulate. You did not force them to not use birth control. You're not forcing them to have a termination. This is 100% the result of their actions and decisions, and it's on them to deal with the consequences. If they need housing suitable for a pregnant woman and later a baby, that's what they need, and it's not a thing you offered or even can offer to them. If Zach wants to be a dad, he needs to earn enough money to be a dad to support his partner and child. If Kat wants to be a mom, she needs someone who'll provide shelter and food and everything else she and the baby will need, at the very least for however long she'll be off work having and raising the baby. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she should be thankful my daughter only called the cops and didn't press charges on her? I've been with my wife for 4 years. I have a 20-year-old daughter and she and my wife were never able to form a strong bond, and one of the reasons for that is distance. My wife did try to get close to my daughter in the past, but my daughter claimed she was just attempting to control her, rather than have a respectful relationship with her. They had past issues, but now get along a bit. My daughter was visiting for Thanksgiving and brought her Honda car with her. I was out of the house when my wife, whose car been sitting in the garage for a month now, took my daughter's car keys without her permission while she was showering and left in it for nearly 2 hours. My daughter called me as soon as she got out of the bathroom and was freaking out, saying neither her car or my wife was there. I tried to calm her down as I tried to get a hold of my wife, but she did not respond. We at this point figured my wife took the car, but did not know where she was or when she was coming back. My daughter searched my wife's closet, then called the cops and reported her car taken. She called back to tell me my wife's closet was half empty, and cops were called. I got off work and went home immediately, and on the way home my wife called crying because she just picked up by the cops at Walmart and was brought into the station. I went over there and met my daughter there. We discussed what happened, and it turned out my wife took the car to go do some shopping and left my daughter a note in the kitchen to let her know since she doesn't have her number, and took clothes from her closet she packed earlier in the morning for church donations. But my daughter thought she ran away and told the cops that this woman, my wife, ran away with her car. My daughter got her car back, and my wife was let go after filling out a form. I took her home, and that is where she had a fight with my daughter, calling her crazy for calling the cops on her and few other things I can't remember. But I told my wife what she did was unacceptable, and she should be grateful my daughter only called the cops in a moment of panic and did not press charges after what she did. My wife was shocked and started crying, saying she couldn't believe I sided with my daughter after she humiliated her and caused her panic and to be involved with the cops like that. I stated that she should have not touched that key in the first place, and she defended herself, saying she was getting things done and buying stuff we needed for the house, but we made her out to be the bad guy. She left her sister's place, saying she had enough of my daughter's disgraceful and vindictive attitude towards her, and said she'll stay there indefinitely or until I get my priorities straight. Because after what happened, she's no longer sure if she is my wife or whether she was treated as such. Edit. My wife's car isn't working and has been in the garage for a while now. That is why she took my daughter's car. Not today home. Gotta be honest, my first thought is your wife might have tried to arrange a situation for you to get mad at your daughter. It'd make her stay away even more. Now she's just upset it backfired. Did you actually find a note in the kitchen? Seems pretty much like that. She didn't ask for permission before using the car. Did not call or send a text because she doesn't have her number. Which explains how close they are and why she shouldn't be taking someone's car whom she doesn't even have a contact info of, and then leaving a note in the kitchen. Could have attended her husband's call or sent him a text that she was taking the car. Looks like she got herself into the trap that she set. Not having stepdaughter's number also shows how little she cares about the father/daughter relationship. What if something happened to dad? How could she contact daughter? What if she wanted to plan a birthday thing for husband? Like, how do you not want the number of your spouse's children just in case?
Am I the a-hole for throwing them out of a house that we own? Son and future in-laws decide to exclude his family from wedding. They thought son owned the house, not us. My wife and I bought a 4-bedroom house in Pennsylvania that my son lives in. Our son went to college in PA and wanted to stay in the area, so we bought the house as a second home. We live in New Jersey and commute into Manhattan for work. We figured that he would have a place to live, and we could visit every so often and spend some quality time together. We pay the taxes and services or maintenance on the house. Our son pays for his groceries and the house utilities. All was going well for a few years. Our son met a girl and they got serious. We met her and she seemed nice enough. They announced their engagement and she moved into the house with our son. Now for the problem, the wedding. We held a little get-to-know-you barbecue at the Pennsylvania house. My son and daughter were there, as were our son's fiancé, her parents, and her sisters. We all seemed to be getting along well. My wife, daughter, the fiancé, her mother, and her sisters went into the house with my son. A few minutes later, my wife and daughter came out and were really upset. They came over and told me we were leaving and driving back to New Jersey. I tried to find out what happened. Once we got back to New Jersey and they calmed down, they told me that our son and his fiancée, along with her family, didn't want us at the wedding. According to what I was told, we're not their kind of people. I was livid. I called my son and asked him what the hell this was about. He told me that her family felt we were not good enough and would embarrass them at a family wedding, and that we were all uninvited from the wedding. I let a week go by to calm myself down, then drove back to the Pennsylvania house. The new future in-laws were in the house along with the fiancé. It appeared that they had all moved into the house. They asked me why I was there, and I told them that since we weren't invited to the wedding, I was coming over to talk to my son. They told me to leave their house. I lost it and told them they had 30 days to get out. I told my son I was selling the house and he could find somewhere else to live with all of them. Later, I went to a realtor in town and listed the house for sale. They called my son at work and told him what I said. Apparently, they thought he owned the house. He called me and asked why I was selling his house. I told him I paid for it, along with the taxes, and it is mine. He had been living there rent-free, but since he doesn't want us in his new life, he has to get out. I told him the same as I told his future in-laws. They have 30 days to get out, or I'll get a lawyer and have them evicted. Am I the a-hole for taking a hard stance on this? He is my son, but the in-laws seem to have taken over, and we no longer count. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You don't need a lawyer in 30 days. You need one now. I am not familiar with Pennsylvania tenant laws, but you need to follow everything by the book so they can't contest anything. I would also go back and video record with a timestamp the entire property inside and out so they can be held accountable for any damage done. Not the a-hole for your stance on the in-laws. However, with your son, I suggest you guys have a conversation and see why he's willing to cut you out for a new family. It seems like you guys were happy until this relationship started. Don't destroy your family to one-up another. Their daughter will likely stay with her parents. Maybe they are taking advantage of your son and he feels he can't express it. I was wondering if it was possible that the son was being manipulated, since his soon-to-be in-laws think he's independently wealthy. Isolating someone from their family is part of the road to abuse. Not the a-hole. Rock on, man. He was wrong, and there is no amount of excuses or words to convince me otherwise. It overall seems toxic, and there is no reason why he should allow anyone to exclude his family. I could understand if maybe you hadn't been supportive or there were issues, but based on what I read, it baffles me why he would even do this. Don't let it keep going forward. If this is the life he wants, they can find another house together and not use you for an easy life. Abusers isolate their partners from their friends and family. While OP's actions are correct, he should also be telling his son that he'll be there for him if he decides to leave the relationship. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my daughter after what she did? I have two daughters. One is Anne, 33, and the other is Mary, 31. Mary got married a couple of months ago. She had a hard time in life. She had surgery and got addicted to opioids at 15. She struggled through school for a while, ended up doing a lot of things she wasn't proud of, but once we managed to get her proper help, she was fine again. In context, the things she did while an addict were really bad. I'm talking about ruining family reunions, causing arguments around the house, the works. One example is when Anne was graduating. Mary didn't want to go and insisted we both go without her, but this was when she was at the height of her addiction. So we called her grandparents to watch her, and they would take 10 minutes to get to the house. She warned us that if she went, she might cause a scene, but Anne told her to just shut up and come, and that she should at least be able to sit through one of the most important moments of her life. Well, she ended up projectile vomiting all over the next 2 rows, then proceeded to break down and wail/cry because of the embarrassment. I left with her, while my husband stayed to support Anne. Obviously, her sister was furious at her, and when we got home, she promised Mary that when her graduation came, she'd ruin it for her. Mary had been off drugs long before her graduation and begged us not to let Anne come. We obliged and told Mary to stay at home or do something else. She was not welcome at the graduation. The graduation went fine. There were many more incidents in the 2 years when she was an addict, but in the end, she got clean, went to a good college, and got a great job. She's well past her addiction now. But because Anne never got to ruin her sister's graduation, she's been waiting for another big life moment to ruin. If it's relevant, Anne never went to college, so that high school graduation was her only graduation. Mary graduated from college, but only her father and I were able to go because of the distance. Now, the moment that Anne had dedicated herself to ruining was her wedding. Mary is often sensitive at life events, and she has some issues she's working through with a therapist on the side. She thought that Anne would be over the high school graduation issue, and Anne pretended like she was. In the dressing room right before Mary was meant to walk down the aisle, Anne took her aside and started insulting everything about her. I had gone to the bathroom at this time. She called her fat, said her dress made her look like a pathetic slut, and claimed her husband was constantly looking at other women's butts. She went on and on until Mary was on the ground in tears. Her makeup was ruined, no one was there to fix it, and the wedding was ruined. Mary walked down the aisle still crying. After this, I told the family what Anne had done, and no one's talking to her. I kicked her out and told her not to come back because she was a vile human being who can't let anything go. She has nowhere else to go now because she can't afford any other housing. Am I the a-hole? From the picture you've painted here, it sounds like you've alienated Anne for the last 15 years or so, while giving Mary the extra attention and support she needed. And it sounds like you've consistently, all three of you, sided against Anne on every issue. While I never would have done what she did, I honestly can't say I wouldn't be harboring serious resentment against all three of you as well. If I had been in Anne's position, you straight up said she wasn't wanted at her sister's graduation, whatever she was feeling over the embarrassment Mary caused her, at what sounds like the only major event she's ever had be about her, you don't think that didn't seriously compound the issue? Damn, you're the a-hole. Mary was a 15-year-old who accidentally got addicted to drugs. A tragedy, really, and while in an incredibly vulnerable state, she made grave mistakes, but she was still only a child. Anne wasn't wanted at the graduation because she literally said she would ruin it, which could truly affect Mary's recovery. And although you are right that Anne suffered too, at the wedding she, a 33-year-old woman, acted with such cruelty and malice, ruining her sister's wedding because she couldn't forgive something her 15-year-old sister did, which wasn't really her fault, getting addicted to pills given by a doctor for medical reasons. While I do believe the parents are a-holes for not properly dealing with it all, she fully deserved to be kicked out. Also, I think it's worth noting that Mary didn't want to make a scene at her sister's graduation, and didn't do it on purpose for attention. Her vomiting over 2 rows of seating happened because Anne pushed her into attending and refused to wait 10 minutes for grandparents to turn up and look after her sister, who was feeling unwell. If she were ill with norovirus or food poisoning, the same would apply. She wasn't feeling well, was pressured into attending, and predictably, suffered an embarrassing accident. Not to mention, it sounds like most of the times the parents have sided with Mary against Anne are purely because of this ongoing quest for revenge that Anne has been driven by. I cannot believe the YTA votes on this thread. Firmly not the a-hole. What happened to Mary and Anne is tragic, yes. To a certain degree, I can empathize with Anne always feeling like sack and fiddle. But God, she is a 33-year-old woman who deliberately ruined her sister's wedding for a petty grudge. Sometimes trauma is not our fault, but healing is always our responsibility. Anne is too old to be acting this way. There's a huge difference in personal accountability at 33 versus at 15 and becoming addicted to opioids against her will. Everyone in this post is screaming about favoritism. I don't think they know what that word means. Next story. Am I the a-hole for going on a motorcycle trip with my friends instead of my daughter's wedding? Some quick context. Last year, I was told my daughter was getting married in 2025. I immediately supported this decision and was there every step of the way. Following tradition, I gave her $4,500 to help with the venue payment. During the planning process, they changed from a local wedding to a destination wedding in Puerto Rico and moved the timeline forward a year to last fall, giving me a year less to pay for the wedding. Now I had to pay for flights and accommodations for people. Reservations for an Airbnb were made and purchased, and tickets were bought. Then they broke up over some pretty immature reasons. I was stuck with the bill. I tried for refunds but was told the trip was going ahead for revenge photos to make him feel bad. Because of that, and because my wife and stepkids are Puerto Rican, I said fine. In total, that trip cost me $22,500. Shortly after that trip, I was invited to ride through Glacier National Park with some buddies. I figured, well, I've paid for multiple trips to Disney, as well as multiple trips for people to go to Puerto Rico, so sure, I think I earned it. My buddies and I planned for this September. My daughter left about 4 months ago to go back to her man and didn't say a word to me. We haven't talked once since she left, 0 explanation or call. The other day she showed up at the house and told me, matter-of-factly, that the wedding is back on, and I needed to be there. It was going to be on Thursday, 9/11. I told her I can't make it. I had prepaid plans already. She said, "You're really going to miss my wedding?" I told her I was there for the first one. She said there wasn't one. I said, "Not according to my bank account." She walked off, and now I apparently am the a-hole. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your daughter's going about the planning all wrong. She should be working with you to decide on a date to ensure the most important people are able to attend. Also, Thursday, 9/11? I can't help but feel that's a poor date choice. And midweek. It sounds like this too is going to be a gigantic toxic disaster, so the date seems perfect. Am I the only one getting red flags from this already failed relationship sealing the deal on Thursday, 9/11? Honestly, I was so ready to call you an a-hole until I read all this. Go have fun with your friends. Not the a-hole. If she's lucky, you can FaceTime in for the ceremony. Yeah, he can be there for the next one. I think everyone sucks here. You're making this all about money that you agreed to pay. Yes, you did pay an enormous amount for the non-wedding, but the option was very much there to say no once the wedding itself had been canceled. You're saying no to the current wedding because of all the things you've paid for, according to you. I gather because you didn't mention it, that she's not asking you to pay this time. That would be an absolutely reasonable no. She's just asking you to be there as her dad. What's impossible to know from your post is the kind of relationship you have and have had with your daughter. If she's leaving you out of planning her wedding, it sounds like you're not particularly close, so we don't know what that story is. But she wants you at her wedding, and your answer, "Not according to my bank account," is telling her I'm not even saying you're the a-hole for saying no. The problem is how you answered the question. I get she's being completely aggravating, but all of this didn't happen in a vacuum. If you've made your relationship with family members transactional, and I'm not saying you have, that might explain part of the rift between you. Believe me, I could not care less about the money. The 3,000 character limit on posts hampers one's ability to fully flesh out the situation. To be honest, I'm hurt by the fact that she just up and left, and didn't even bother to call one time in months. She never even considered checking to see if that date worked for others. I was put off by the entitlement shown by suddenly showing up and saying, "Hey, this is the new date and I expect you to show up," after zero communication. And not to mention, it's 9/11, of which I'm a veteran and was in the Middle East on that very day. Not a lot of fun. Neither were the next 3 years as a result. Honestly, I feel this whole situation could have been avoided with one single phone call. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my intellectually disabled step-brother stay at my place? I'm 20 male, and mom got married 6 years ago. Her husband is Luke, and he has a son, Rhett. Rhett's 17 now, but he's intellectually disabled and can't live 100% independently. He needs help with things and always will, but he's more independent than people expect when they meet him. That's because he acts like a really young kid, and he gets clingy like a much younger kid when he likes someone. When my mom married Luke, Rhett got super fond of me really fast and became overwhelmingly clingy. My mom thought it was the sweetest thing, and Luke disliked me because he saw how unwilling I was to embrace having Rhett be so attached to me. Rhett hated when I wasn't at my mom's house and would cry and scream when I went home to my dad, who I lived with primarily. There were times he tried to follow me to my dad's house, and it was a whole ordeal that made me spend less time at my mom's house, which made Rhett more clingy whenever I was there or whenever he saw me. There were times he wandered away from Luke or my mom if he saw me with friends at the mall, and he'd follow us. He used to seek me out at school too. All this means I never really bonded with Rhett. I found him too much, and even though my mom wanted me to see him as a brother, I just didn't. When I moved into my own place last year, my mom annoyingly kept talking about how much Rhett missed me and how he wanted to see me. Then my mom and Luke told me Rhett wanted to come and stay with me for a few days. They said they would give me money so I wouldn't face any financial trouble having him, but they think he would have such a great time and get more of me, which he keeps asking about. I told them I wasn't comfortable with Rhett coming to stay, and Luke was like, "F you, Rhett deserves better than you for a brother." My mom asked me to do it for her and Rhett. She said it would make her whole year to see me embrace him and to see him get time with his favorite person. I told her I didn't want to deal with having a shadow again. She told me that was so sad because Rhett would light up my life if I gave him a chance and just loved him. She said it would do me some good to stop being so negative and would make a special person very happy. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You're not close with him and you don't view him as a brother, no matter how much they try to force it on you. Things like that have to happen organically, and the more they push it on you, it's natural to want to reject it. They likely want a little break from Red so you can get comfortable with him and provide regular respite for them. You're not the a-hole, and they should get over trying to force a connection that hasn't been there for 6 years. I know that's probably what they have hoped. That way they get respite, and Rad's happy to be with the people providing it, and I'm the obvious choice for them. I don't blame them for wanting it, but someone else would be a better choice because it really wouldn't go well if I did it.